Hey guys, today I'm checking out the new HellBeast amp sim from Audio Assault. As you just heard, it sounds sick, so let's take a look at it. So this is the HellBeast. It's based on a Randall Satan, and it sounds satanic in a beautiful way. So let's just start off with the main controls of the amp. You've got girth and grind, which are unique controls to the Randall Satan. Then you've got your gain, bass, middle, treble, depth, and presence. As you can see, I've got the girth backed off a little bit. That's only because I'm playing a 7-string in drop A flat, and if I were to boost that too high, it would get very flubby. If you were playing Doom or something like that, it would be great to boost that all the way. As you can see, I've got the grind boosted a little bit, and that sort of really just adds some top end sparkle and grind. And just tightens everything up. It just sounds, very tight. Got the gain about halfway. There's loads of gain in this amp. Bass, middle, treble, 666. Got to be done. It just happened to be the right way to set this amp, so very happy about that. And then depth and presence are also set around 6-ish. This kill control is cool as well. I forgot to mention that. It basically, I don't really know what it does, but it just makes everything sound sick. It just makes everything sound tight, and it adds a little bit of gain, but it's not really a lead boost. It just makes everything sound tight and sick. Then at the top here, we've got a gate, a in and output gain. Then we've got this stomp setting here. This is basically a tube screamer type of deal. It's a little bit different in that on a tube screamer you get a drive, level and tone control, but here you get drive, mix and tone. And I believe the tone works a little bit differently on this. I think I noticed that as you boost the tone control, you get more top end and you start to suck out a little bit of the bottom end. And then what I've done here with the mix control is I'm basically I'm using that to bring in a little bit of the low end that I took out before, and it sounds great. Definitely recommend playing with this. It's always a good feature to have a sort of overdrive on an amp sim like this. Then you've got the cab, which includes a bunch of great sounding stock impulses. I opted on the rhythm channel for my typical Red Wires orange 4x12 setup, and this time I'm using the SM57 Cap 0 and the R121 Cap Edge 0, and I'm using both together blended. That's another great thing about this this cab section, is that you can A or B cabs to test them, or you can blend them together if you want, which is always a great feature. Then after this, we have the effects, which I didn't mess with at all for the rhythm tones, but as you'll see later, I did use them on the leads. You've got a graphic EQ here, a chorus, delay, and reverb. Here's a clip of the amp on its own, just these settings that I've just shown you. So, now we'll get on to the sort of mix. I'm using the FabFilter Pro Q3. Just got a basic low and high pass filter, 80 Hz and 10K. Pulling out some nasty high frequencies. Not too much, because you don't want to make things sound dead and sterile. A little bit of 700 honk. And the amp sim I found had quite a lot of low mids going on, which isn't what I wanted to go for, so I dipped quite a bit of that out. Now this is a dynamic EQ band. This is a new thing for Pro Q3, and basically this is set up to compress the low end when I palm mute. It's very similar to the C4 trick or the Chug Slayer in my the Joel Wanasek Bus Blue pack. Basically doing the same thing, is just pulling 3 dB every time I palm mute basically, and it just really helps clear up the low end. So this is what the guitars sound like with this EQ engaged. Okay, now we're taking a look at the virtual mix rack, which comes after the graphic EQ. And what I've got going on here is the virtual channel and the preamp as well. These aren't clipping or anything, they're not adding any distortion, they're just there to add a little bit of analog vibe, I suppose. And then most importantly, we've got the FGN EQ, and with that I'm boosting the top end, a little bit of high mids and a little bit of low end as well. And I just love this EQ on everything, I think it sounds great. Finally, I'm just using the virtual tape machines from Slate Digital. I generally put this on everything. It just makes everything glue together really nicely, and it doesn't make a huge amount of difference when you hear the guitars soloed, but in the final mix it makes a lot of difference. Okay, now moving on to that sort of clean crunch sound towards the end of the song. So this effects chain looks pretty crazy, but it's actually not too bad. So this first compressor is basically acting like a pedal compressor almost. It's just taming the peaks, making the playing sound a little bit more consistent so that we don't distort the front end of the amp. Then we've got the amp, of course. Got the girth and grind boosted considerably. The gain all the way down to 1.5. There is no clean channel on this amp, but as you can hear, if you bring it down enough, you can get it pretty clean. So the bass and mid are cut a little bit, trebles boosted, depths a little bit cut, and the presence is boosted as well. And I've got the kill mode off. Not using the stomp. The cab, I'm using the Thrasher 4x12 that came with HellBeast. It's a stock cab, and that sounds great. I didn't use any of the inbuilt effects here, and I'll explain why in a minute. So this S1 imager is literally just a lazy way of panning the guitars in a little bit. I do this quite a lot. It's really not adding anything, it's just panning the guitars in a little bit. This EQ is just making it lo-fi, basically cutting a lot of top end and bottom end. This is the sort of mixing compressor, but it's not doing a whole lot still. It's just a 2A, and it's, you know, really just touching the peaks. And then virtual tape machines once again. As I explained before, I just had it on everything, just makes it all sound great. And then what I've got going on now is I'm using the Sound Toys Little Plate Reverb and Echo Boy. And the reason that I'm using these instead of the ones that are in HellBeast is just because the ones that are in HellBeast sound quite hi-fi, and this is a very lo-fi kind of sound, as you'll hear in a second when it's soloed. And I just couldn't get those to sound right. I used them on the lead, as I'll show you in a second, but it just didn't sound right for this crunch sound. So here's the crunch sound soloed. Lastly, let's take a look at this lead sound. So, HellBeast, of course, set pretty similarly to the rhythm sound. Got the treble and presence boosted a tad more, but other than that, it's pretty similar. Tube Screamer is boosting a lot of tone and quite a bit of drive. The mix is all the way up because I was cutting low end anyway after the fact. So this basically just keeps it clean. There's no need for all that low end. For the cab, I'm using the Avenger 412, which comes stock with HellBeast, and it sounds great. Okay, so on to the effects. I'm not using the graphic EQ. I'm using the chorus, delay, and reverb though. The chorus I just played with and just came up with a sound that I liked. The delay is set also, it's fairly mellow, it's got quite a bit of mix in it. There is no tempo sync on the delay, so I just sort of roughly got it to the tempo. I think it sounds quite vibey if it's not, you know, completely in sync though, so it's cool. And then the reverb I've just got set like this. Again, I just messed with it and came to this. After this, once again, we've got S1 doing some lazy panning. This is a bit of a weird curve that I've got going on here with the EQ. I really just sort of started smashing things at this point and just doing whatever until I came up with something that I liked, so came out with that. And then once again I've got a similar thing going on with the to the crunch with this compressor, where it's just sort of taming it a little bit. And then finally, virtual tape machines on everything. So I'll give you a little before and after clip, so I'll show you what the HellBeast sounds like on its own and then with all this processing. So that's the HellBeast from Audio Assault. As you can hear, it's a great sounding amp sim for metal, and I thoroughly recommend that you check it out. All the relevant links will be in the description below. If you like the song, it's by my band Deities, it's called The Phage from our first EP. And lastly, thanks for checking out the video. I was trying out a new format today, and I hope it wasn't too much of a mess, but hopefully I'll have some more content coming soon, so please subscribe and like the video if you liked it. And yeah, stick around and hopefully I'll have some more soon. Thanks.